Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into something that affects literally all of us, the little mental shortcuts and, well, thinking traps our brains set for us every single day. We're going to pull back the curtain on how these traps work and, more importantly, what we can actually do about them. So let me just ask you straight up, is your brain lying to you? It sounds a little dramatic, right? But think about it for a second. Have you ever just jumped to the worst possible conclusion, only to realize later you were completely off? Or maybe you've spent hours worrying about something that never even came close to happening. Yeah, if you're nodding along, you are definitely not alone. We're about to see just how convincing our own thoughts can be, even when they're not telling us the whole truth.
Now, there's a technical term for these little mental glitches. It's cognitive distortion. Sounds super complicated, I know, but all it really means is a common, predictable way our brain tricks us into believing something that isn't totally accurate. And here's the kicker. These thoughts are almost always automatic. We don't even realize they're happening, but boy, do they have a real impact on how we feel.
Okay, so our source material actually lays out about 15 of these common distortions. Now, we're not going to go through all 15, that'd be a bit much. Instead, to really get a handle on the most powerful ones, we're going to explore them in 3 distinct, easy-to-remember groups.
First up, we've got a really big one, black and white thinking. This is when our brain just decides to get rid of all the messy shades of gray. In this world, everything is one thing or the other. You're either a total success or you're a complete failure. There is absolutely no middle ground.
This is the classic all-or-nothing trap. It's such a rigid way of looking at life, you know? Instead of seeing progress or learning or just nuance, your mind sorts everything into one of 2 simple boxes. It was perfect or it was terrible. It was right or it was wrong. That's it.
And just think about how that feels for a second. You make one single mistake, which is a totally normal human thing to do, and your brain immediately translates that into a verdict on your entire identity. The thought isn't I did a bad thing, it's I am a bad thing. That's what makes this trap so incredibly destructive. Now, here's where it gets even trickier, because this next one works hand in hand with black and white thinking. It's called disqualifying the positive. This is when you actively, though unconsciously, just dismiss anything good that happens. It's like your brain puts on a special filter that only lets the negative stuff get through.
Oh, this is such a classic, right? You achieve something, and instead of taking it in, your brain immediately explains it away. It was luck, it was a fluke, anyone could have done it. By chalking it up to luck, it feels like you're protecting yourself from future failure. But what you're really doing is robbing yourself of the confidence and the credit you absolutely deserve. Okay, so if our first group of traps is all about seeing the world in extremes, our next group is about what happens when our brain tries to fill in the blanks, and almost always fills them with something negative. This is jumping to conclusions. It's when our mind makes up its mind before all the evidence is in. The key thing to understand here is the total lack of evidence. Your mind doesn't just have a hunch. It creates a whole story and then treats that story like it's a proven fact. And then you have a very real, very physical, emotional reaction to a story that might be based on absolutely nothing. And there are 2 really common ways we do this. First up, we've got mind reading. This is when you just assume you know exactly what someone else is thinking about you. You suddenly think you're a psychic. And spoiler alert, you almost always assume they're thinking something critical or negative. Just listen to how quick and certain that thought is. He's thinking that I failed. There's no doubt, no room for another possibility. We've all done this, right? You see a quick look on someone's face and boom, your brain has written an entire screenplay for their inner monologue. But the honest truth is, we have no idea what's really going on inside someone else's head. And the second flavor of this is fortune telling. So if mind reading is about pretending to know the present, fortune telling is all about predicting a terrible future. It's like you've got a crystal ball, but it's broken and it can only show you disaster. And this thought? This is a real 1-2 punch. First, you've got the negative prediction. I will fail. It's stated as a fact. Then comes the catastrophe, and this will be unbearable. It's that combination of absolute certainty and absolute dread that can completely paralyze us. It can stop us from even trying in the first place. All right, our third and final group of thinking traps really brings it all home. It's not just about seeing things in black and white or jumping to conclusions. It's about making everything, well, personal. This is when we put ourselves smack dab in the center of every negative event, casting ourselves as either the villain who caused it or the victim who's suffering from it. Personalization. This is the one where you blame yourself for things that are completely and totally out of your control. A negative thing happens out in the world and your very first thought is, this is my fault, without ever stopping to think, are there any other possible explanations here? This is a perfect everyday example. You immediately interpret the cashier's action, or lack of action, as a direct personal attack on you. The trap is that your brain doesn't even bother to consider other options. Maybe they're having a terrible day. Maybe they're stressed. Maybe they're just distracted. Nope. In your mind, it's about you. You've become the target.
This one is sometimes called the binocular trick, and I love that analogy. It's like you're holding a pair of binoculars. You look through one end to make all of your mistakes and flaws look absolutely huge, right up in your face. And then you flip the binoculars around to look at your strengths and successes, making them look tiny and a million miles away.
Wow, this comparison really says it all, doesn't it? Look at the left side. The distorted thought takes a simple fact, I gotta be, and immediately attaches a painful identity statement to it. This proves how inferior I am. But now look at the balanced view on the right. The fact is the same, I gotta be, but the story is completely different. It's just a grade. It's a good grade even. It is not a verdict on your self-worth. And separating the fact from the story, that is everything. So, okay, we've looked at all these tricky, sneaky mental traps. The big question is, what do we do now? And here is the single most important thing I want you to take away from this. You don't have to fight these thoughts. You don't have to wrestle them into submission. The real power comes from simply noticing them. Awareness. That is the first and honestly the most important step to everything.
That's it. That's step one. The whole goal isn't to try and win a war against your own mind. It's just to start listening. Become a curious observer of your own thoughts. Just start to notice when these automatic patterns show up. That simple act of paying attention, that's where all the change begins.
So here's a really simple 3-step process you can try. First, just notice the thought. Don't judge it, just see it. Second, try to give it a name. Oh, hello, black and white thinking. Or, there's my old friend fortune telling. Just naming it gives you a little bit of distance. It separates you from the thought. And finally, you can gently question it. Just ask yourself, is this thought 100% true? Is there maybe another way I could look at this?
And please, remember this. This is not about being hard on yourself for having these thoughts in the first place. The goal is not to become some perfectly rational robot. That's just not going to happen. The goal is to recognize these thoughts for what they are. They're just old habits, just mental patterns. And once you can see them for what they are, they start to lose their grip. They lose their power over you. So I'll leave you with a little challenge. As you go through the rest of your day or your week, which one of these thinking traps are you going to notice first? Because just by starting to look for them, you're already taking the first step out of the trap. Thanks for joining.